All right, so are you ready for this? We're going deep, deep into a fictional world, and let's just say it's seen better days. I mean, we're talking full-blown apocalypse here.
Yeah.
And right at the center of it all, there's this character, Graf. Pretty intense name, right?
Yeah, it's almost like his name is a warning. Pasta actually comes from basta, and that means like the end, it's over.
Whoa. So we're dealing with a villain whose name basically screams destruction. That's heavy stuff. But where do we even begin to unpack all this? What are we looking at source material-wise?
Well, we've got some pretty fascinating excerpts to dive into. We'll be pulling from 00 Paste, 01 Dosacru der Graf, and 02 Dosacru and Paste Pasta. It's a lot to cover, but I think it'll give us a really good look at this world on the brink.
A world on the brink. That's an understatement from what I've heard. But let's jump right in. Give us the lay of the land.
Yeah.
What's the situation in this fictional world? How bad is it, really?
It's actually pretty wild when you read through the sources. I mean, the devastation is insane. We're talking earthquakes that rip continents apart, volcanoes going off like fireworks, tsunamis that just reshape coastlines. It's like the universe is throwing every disaster imaginable at this place.
It's crazy, right? I mean, if it wasn't so terrifying, it'd be kind of impressive. Like someone got really creative with how to end the world. But you keep mentioning this Graf. Is he just some random bad guy? Or is there something more to him? Is he the one causing all this mayhem?
Oh, he's definitely not just some random dude. Graf Paste is the ultimate villain here. He's pulling the strings, making all this happen. The sources describe him as like a super genius scientist. He's also a powerful magician, like he can literally bend reality. And to top it off, he's charismatic. People follow him.
Brains, power, and charisma. Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
But come on, where's the villain part come in?
Well, they definitely don't shy away from his bad side in the sources. They use words like perverse, greedy,
Yeah.
even a miserable lover.
Ouch, that's gotta sting.
Yeah, they really went all out to show how truly awful he is. It's not even just about him being power hungry. He genuinely enjoys making people suffer. It's like he embodies everything wrong with this world.
So we've got this apocalyptic world orchestrated by this truly nasty character, Graf. Is anyone even trying to stop him?
That's where 00 Paste comes in. We meet the Nova crew, and they're trying to save the day, but let's just say they're a bit, well, different.
Different how?
Lay it on me.
Okay, so picture this. You've got Florian, the pilot, who's also a botanist, but he's basically stoned all the time. Then you have Karina. She's called the psychedelic Goa Hex, which is, a lot to take in.
That's quite the title. I'm intrigued. Who else is on this team of unique individuals?
We've also got Sanja, vegan elf,
Yeah.
brilliant engineer, and rounding out the crew is Christian, the cyborg. We don't know much about his past, which is a bit mysterious.
You're really selling me on this team. A stone pilot, a psychedelic elf, and a cyborg walk into a bar. It sounds like the start of a joke, not a group of heroes trying to save the world.
That's where the humor really comes through in the sources. These characters, they're flawed, they argue, they make some questionable choices. It's almost like watching a dysfunctional family trying to save the world.
Okay, so maybe not your typical heroes.
Mm-hmm.
But what exactly are they trying to do? What's their mission in all this?
Their goal is to stop the sun from exploding. It seems even the sun isn't safe from Graf Paste in this universe.
Whoa, hold on. So they're literally trying to stop the world from going supernova. Those are some pretty high stakes.
Exactly. And knowing this crew, it doesn't exactly fill you with confidence, does it?
Not gonna lie, I'm a little worried for them. I mean, I'm all for rooting for the underdog, but a stoned botanist, a psychedelic elf, and a cyborg going up against a reality-bending villain, that's a tough one.
It really is. And that brings us to the big question. Do they actually pull it off? Or are they doomed from the start? It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, are these guys just messed up, or did this whole apocalyptic thing make them this way?
Like, were they always going to be a disaster, or did the world kind of force their hand?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's funny, though. Their flaws, they kind of make them relatable. I mean, who hasn't screwed up, especially when things are crazy? Just, usually the fate of the world isn't hanging in the balance.
That's a good point. It makes them human. You feel for them. They're not perfect superheroes or anything, just regular folks trying to deal with an impossible situation. And, well, sometimes your best just isn't enough, especially when you're up against someone like Graf Paste.
Speaking of Graf, we've talked a lot about how bad he is, all the destruction, but we haven't really gotten into why. Why is he doing all this? What's his motivation? Is he just pure evil, or is there something more going on?
That's where the sources get a little vague. They tell us what he does, all the manipulation, the cruelty, the lust for power, but they don't really say why. It's like they're leaving it up to us to figure out.
That's interesting. So what do you think? What could drive someone to basically want to destroy everything?
Well, maybe he's a nihilist, you know? Someone who believes life is meaningless, so destruction is the only logical end. Or maybe he's got this deep resentment, this need to make the world pay for something bad that happened to him.
It's like taking that whole, if I can't have it, no one can, to a whole other level. But, okay, so if he wanted to end the world, why not just do it? Why all the earthquakes and volcanoes and tsunamis? Why drag it out?
That's a really good question. I think those disasters, they do a couple of things. First, they create fear, chaos. It makes it harder for anyone to resist him. But I also think it's a way for him to express what's going on inside him. Like he's not just destroying the world, he's showing us his own pain, his own anger.
So it's not just about power, it's about control. He wants to control everything, even how the world ends.
Exactly. He's shaping the apocalypse in his own image, which I guess brings us back to pasta, you know, basta, the end, all that.
Right, and we have that song O2, Dosa Crew and Paste Pasta. So how does a song about pasta fit into all this end of the world stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of strange, right? But when you look at the lyrics, they're actually really aggressive, full of anger. There's lines like, "My rhymes are poison, I conquer the terrain, I'm the king, but I dance on rusty rust." It's not exactly what you'd expect from a song called Pasta.
Not unless we're talking some really spicy pasta, like penne arrabbiata turned up to 11. But how do these angry lyrics connect to Graf paste and, everything going boom?
I think it goes beyond the literal end of the world. It's about silencing anyone who opposes him, crushing any hope of resistance. Pasta is like that final word, that game over moment.
So he's not just destroying the world, he's trying to wipe out any memory of those who fought against him, like the Nova crew. He wants total control, even in death.
Yeah, exactly. And the song, even though it's angry, it reminds us that people can still resist, even when things seem hopeless. It's a powerful message.
It's like that last cry before the curtain falls. Like, we were here, we fought. Even if they lost, they weren't silenced.
It's amazing how a story like this can bring up such deep ideas. Even when it seems like the bad guy wins, there's always that hope, that resilience. There's something about that that really gets to me, you know? It's like a reminder that even in the darkest stories, there's always a chance for something good.
That's a great point. And it makes me think, if Graf paste is this ultimate silencer, this pasta that brings everything to an end, is there anything on the other side? Is there a chance for something new to grow out of all this destruction?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. What if pasta isn't just the end, but also a beginning? Like, what if it's both?
I like where you're going with this. It's like that phoenix rising from the ashes, right? Destruction and then rebirth. Maybe Graf paste ended the world as they knew it. But pasta could also mean something new taking its place.
Exactly. It's like even with all the loss, there's always a chance for something new, something beautiful to come out of it. Like, out of the ashes we rise and all that.
That's a powerful thought, especially these days when everything feels a little shaky. It's a good reminder that even after the pasta, even after the end, there's still that possibility of a new beginning. But what do you think about this? Do you think pasta is just the end, or is it a chance for something new? Something to think about as we finish up this deep dive into this world, a world that's fantastical, but also strangely familiar.
It's pretty amazing, right? How this made-up world with all the crazy disasters and this supervillain can make you think about such big stuff.
I know, right? It's like underneath all the chaos and destruction, there's these deep themes that hit close to home. Survival, fear of the unknown, hoping for a better future. Those are things we all deal with, even if we're not facing an actual apocalypse.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's what makes Graf Pace such a great villain. He represents those fears, those dark parts we all have inside.
But the fact that we can even recognize that darkness,
Yeah.
through stories like this, it shows that there's potential for good too, for growth. Maybe that's the real power of pasta. It's not just about the end, but about what comes after.
Yeah, exactly. It's about starting fresh, rebuilding, creating something good out of all the bad stuff.
And that's a really hopeful message, don't you think? Especially now, when there's so much going on in the world, climate change, politics, all that, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, like everything's falling apart. But this deep dive with Graf Pace, the Nova crew, and that whole pasta idea, it reminds us that even when things are really bad, there's still hope. There's always a chance to change things, to make things better.
It comes down to choices, right? Even with someone like Graf Pace calling the shots, we still have choices. The Nova crew, even though they were kind of messed up, They chose to fight back, to resist, they tried to make a difference, and yeah, they failed, but their story shows us that even small actions can have an impact. Even when things seem hopeless, our choices matter.
And that brings us back to you listening. What if you were in this world, facing pasta, knowing all about Graf paste and what's going down? What would you do? Fight, run, or find some other way to deal with it all? It's not just a thought experiment, you know. We're all making choices every day that shape the world around us. Our choices are part of the story we're all living.
That's a great way to put it. I think that's what we should take away from this deep dive. It's not just about understanding this fictional world, but about applying it to our own lives, our choices, our potential to change things.
So as we wrap things up here, we'll leave you with this. Remember the power of choice. Even when things seem impossible, even when the world feels like it's falling apart, you can make a difference. Choose hope over despair, action over giving up. Help build a better future, a future that reflects what matters most to you.
It's been awesome exploring all this with you. Thanks for joining us.
And until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and never forget how powerful your choices can be. They really can shape the world around us.